The following program was produced by an independent community producer. The opinions expressed do not necessarily reflect those of the ECAT staff or board of directors.
Greetings to those folks out there that may be watching, and welcome to Easton 300, a monthly TV show that talks about the plans as we prepare for the year 2025. And of course, that will be our 300th anniversary for the town of Easton, Massachusetts. I'm Dave Clifton, here along with Brian Hoffman. We're happy to co-host this show, and we'll continue to do so throughout the year-round celebration in 2025. When Brian called me, he told me that we were going to be talking to some folks from the AFL. So I kind of briefed myself on professional football, thinking it might be the American Football League. But no, folks, I'm only kidding. It's the Ames Free Library. And we're so happy to have folks that join us, not just from the library, but also for the Queeset House. And Brian, I'm going to give you the honor and privilege of introducing our guest.
Thank you, Dave. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Easton 300. With us today is the director of the Ames Free Library in Dunbar, and is the title manager, the manager and guru of Queeset House, Dana Hourigan. And I think these are two people who are going to have an awful lot to share with us in terms of the value of the library as an asset and what it means to the town now, has meant in the past, and certainly what it's going to mean to the town and the residents as we go forward. So glad you're with us. Ian, would you like to say hello?
Hello, thank you for having me on.
Oh, glad to have you here.
And how about Dana? You know that you're working hard at the Queeset House.
Yep.
We've seen you a number of times, and our committee wants to thank you very much for the opportunity to have some of our committee meetings there as we plan and prepare.
Of course. We're always happy to have you guys.
Yeah, it's a great place for, and David, you were talking before we went on the air about where the community connects. The library certainly is a primary example of that, but I can't think of a better example of it as well as the Queeset House, because there are so many programs that connect pieces of the community that you may not think of immediately when you think of a library and books. And the library is so much more than books. So,
and what makes a community? It's the people that live in the town or city, regardless of where you are. And of course, having a sense of community is so important to any town. And I can see it as the chair of a committee that's planning a year-round celebration that a lot of folks believe in the community. Mm-hmm. They're excited about the 300th anniversary celebration. And Ian, I wanted you to maybe give us a little bit of history of the Ames Free Library. Tell us about it. And there may be some folks out there that might have just moved into town and would be anxious to hear about it.
Yes, thank you. The Ames Free Library, as we know, is Easton's public library. We are anybody from the state of Massachusetts to come and take use of our services for circulation or programming or meeting space, or just a place to sit and do tutoring or studying or have meetings. We're open 6 days a week. The library first opened in 1883 as a gift from the Ames family of Easton to the residents of Easton. It has been in operation since then, fully. It became co-supported by the town in the 70s. Up to then, it was just a private organization, though anyone was still welcome to use it. In its early history, it was just a reading library, and the stacks were closed. So a gentleman would have to come in and ask the librarian for a specific book who would get it behind a gate and handed to them, and then they would sit down and read it within. Since then, things have changed. It is open. We welcome everyone to come in and enjoy it. And we have a lot of people just to come in and appreciate the historical architecture of the building, and make use of all sorts of things we have, books and movies and museum passes, and now we have a telescope and a power washer that you can take home and make use of as well.
Yeah.
It's amazing, Brian, going to the library when I was a kid, it was just about books. Make sure you have your card with you. But now they've got involved in all kinds of leisure time activities, bringing kids together, and you even have an assistant who's involved with youth services as well, Jessica Block. She couldn't be with us today.
No, Jessica Block is now the assistant director of the library, but for a long time there she was the youth services librarian. We now have two full-time youth services librarians on staff, which is for the first time in the library's history. It's amazing. They run a lot of incredible children's programming. We're gearing up now for the summer programming, where they have concerts and puppet shows and magic in the garden on Monday nights. Anyone's welcome to come. It's fun for the whole family, and yeah, they put a lot of work leading up to that. It's a summer programming, but they start planning in winter because...
And I'm sure the children's story hour is still incredibly popular.
Yes, especially now that the weather's up again and they can do it outside.
Yeah.
Make use of the beautiful garden we have there behind us. It's great to look out and see all the crowds, but there's 3 story times a week, Tuesday through Thursdays, for specific ages, but it's not too hard and fast.
Yeah. And you mentioned the gardens, and again, for folks maybe who are new to the community, or you might have been here for a while and just haven't been over to the Ames Free Library and the grounds, there's an incredible Italianate garden that has been restored over the last probably close to 2 decades now, that joins the campus of the Ames Free Library and the Queeset House. And so what the library has to offer, the programs that can be produced outside in the gardens, lead one right to Dana's doorstep, and the kinds of things that happen at Queeset House. So tell us a little bit about Queeset House, Dana.
Well, Queeset House, like you said, is sort of where the community comes for all of our social and educational programming and events. I brought a May calendar because we're filming this in May, just so that people could get an idea of what's out there. There's something for everyone. If there isn't something for you, you can come ask, and we'll probably be able to help bring that to fruition.
Are there a couple of key events that you'd like to tell people about?
There are, yeah. So one of the things that is really nice, and I think unique to our library, is the one-on-one programming. We have one-on-one podcasting now. We have one-on-one sewing machine lessons, photography. We're about to launch use of our Cricut machine with one-on-one lessons. You can sign up for any of these online. And also one-on-one Adobe design. We also have lectures in the evenings and other events. This month we have a gardening program. Tonight we have decluttering and organizing your home. We have craft programs. We have an author talk coming up. We have Tai Chi out in the garden, genealogy, board games, tea and tarot for adults and teens, and book clubs, of course, all different kinds of book clubs.
Sure.
And then 2 things that I also wanted to point out that are hosted in Queeset House, but we don't actually run them, are the Hockomock Film Club, which is open to everyone, and the every other Monday evening we have, blanking on the name of the group, Learn to Cope, which is for friends and family of loved ones who have struggling with addiction.
Yeah, and that's an incredible
And those are also
challenge.
that's also open to everyone.
Yeah. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think a lot of the folks who staff these one-on-one programs are volunteers.
They're volunteers.
They're bringing their talents as a photographer, as a seamstress, as an artist, whatever, to teach people in the community. And are some of them, the resident schedules an appointment, and others you can just walk in?
They are by schedule.
They
you
are
go
by
onto
schedule.
the library's website and
And
sign
how
up.
would somebody do that? Can they call or go online? Or?
AmesFreeLibrary.org, and scroll around till you find all the one-on-one classes and click and reserve your spot.
Great. Great.
I'd like to take a minute before we come back to our guest to certainly thank ECAT, Easton Community Access Television, for not only covering our meetings, but covering all the town events. And here we are talking about the Ames Free Library, as well as the Queeset House, a facility that the town of Easton's got to be very proud to be able to have these facilities available in their town. It's a great community to bring up family, and certainly, Brian, you're familiar with the history of the town.
Oh, yeah.
How important when you take a look at all the buildings in town.
Yep.
Wow.
It is.
The history stands out, no doubt about it.
And it's not just the architecture. You're right, Dave. The history of so many of the buildings and facilities and programs in the town goes back generations. And as Ian said, that library has been here for a long time. And when you look at libraries in New England and in the country, I mean, here's an award-winning library nestled in this, little town that when people tell you that they're from Easton, folks go, oh, down in the Cape. And we tell them, no, that's East Ham. We're in Easton, and we've got this fabulous, Richardson building that houses this incredible library. And I think, Ian, too, if I want something researched, I can come into the library and ask a research librarian for assistance?
Yes, we have 2 full-time adult service librarians that man a reference desk up on the main floor of the library. You can come there. They will help you with whatever you need, whether it's historical research on some of the archives we have, or just you're looking for a book on gardening and you want to find, they can help you find it. Thankfully, the state of Massachusetts is very generous with library support, and they have systems in place so any resident of the state can go to any library in the state. And the same thing, we all trade resources around. So, we're a beautiful but small building, so we can't house everything. But
idea.
if there's something you want, chances are good we can get it for you from another library and have it shipped here in just a matter of days.
And Dana, are there collaborative things that Queeset House does with places outside of the Ames Free Library?
That's a good question. Not that I can think of.
We use it a lot to host meetings, community meetings, such as yourselves.
Sure.
We make it available to different town offices to host just meetings amongst themselves or training seminars. And we do that for a lot of different organizations, even library organizations or private groups. We want to make it available for people that don't necessarily have a conference room or something. So not so much collaboration with ourselves, but we just here's a space, come and use it, come and enjoy it. We have presentation capabilities there so people can hook up a laptop and assist with their own meetings. So we do that a lot. The building opens to the public at 1, but generally in the mornings we have 1 or 2 groups in there just using it as a meeting space and learning opportunity.
Sure, sure.
One of the things that we hope that we can do with the Town of Easton's 300th anniversary celebration is to utilize a lot of the facilities in town.
Yeah.
And we're talking about the Ames Free Library, we're talking about Queeset House, we're talking about Oak Ames Memorial Hall. We're making sure that the facilities that we use can bring people together, and that's what you folks do at the Queeset House. You connect. And we're excited about the celebration. We're going to be knocking on your door, Ian, in terms of some ideas that we may have. We're thinking about the possibility of the art festival being a Memorial Hall. They'll stop in at the Queeset House, and they'll also be at the Ames Free Library. So we're going to be mentioning some of the activities for the 300th anniversary during this show. But let's get back to the 2 folks that join us, Brian, and I know that Ian, there's lots of history that goes with your facility. And do you, I know it says Ames Free Library. Is that kind of open to anybody that's a resident of the town?
Yes, that is exactly what the free means in it. We are a private organization, but we're free to anyone. You don't even have to be a resident of the town. Anyone can come in and use it. As I said, our motto is where the community connects. We really encourage people to come in and not just learn something new or grab a resource, but talk to their neighbors, exchange ideas, learn something new. Which was one of the original ideas for Queeset House in the first place, to have a space to facilitate that outside of the library. A little just history on Queeset House itself. It's older than the library. It was built in 1853 as a residence for members of the Ames family. It was a long-term summer home of Winthrop Ames, who was a Broadway producer. And over the years, it had passed around through other members of the Ames family. It was sit derelict for a little bit. And then in the late 90s, the library was looking to expand. We're a historical building. The walls are thick stone to cut down from the noise from the shovel factory across the street when it was originally built. There's only so much space we can fit books and people. So they were working on a plan to expand the library to actually go farther out into what is now the parking lot. And they got a number of grants and raised a lot of money. And then at the 11th hour, it was voted down by the town because the drawings and the plans were very different than the historical building we're looking at now. And it was just kind of a little bit too extreme. So the library was trying to figure out what to do because they still needed more room. Because we would have programming just in the middle of where you could get a book now. So every day we're moving tables out, moving chairs in, and disrupting everybody that's trying to read. So in 2007, I want to say, the library purchased Queeset House. And then kind of after that was trying to think of really what to do with it. So the idea was we wanted more room to hold our collection of materials, but at the same time, we didn't want to have direct people in two different buildings if they wanted one book versus the other. So we hit on the idea of just having it as a space where people can come together and learn from each other. So we turned it into just our meeting and event space. And then the former director, Hourigan, had the idea of having it be a learning commons. This is a place where people can come in and really learn, dive deep into something that they haven't, that they're excited about or don't know about. So we have a digital media lab there. As Danny was saying, with Cricut, we have a podcasting studio, Cricut, scanners, and the idea is for people to come in and just learn them. We have like the whole suite of Adobe editing software for anyone just to come in and play with and learn. And at the same time, while they're in there learning it, we're hoping that they're going to share their enthusiasm with others, which is where all the one-on-ones come through. People get excited that they, about their own knitting or sewing things, and we have sewing machines. They want to show other people how to do it, how to use them. And it's just grown since then. We're there to people excited to use it.
It's interesting, my very first visit to the Queeset House, I thought it was a small White House for connecting the community, and that's exactly what it is. And it's something that is very precious for the community to have. We're going to take a short break, but I would like to say before we do that, that if you wish to share your time, your talent, your ideas, your resources, even your funds, whether it be for the Queeset House or maybe for the town of Easton's 300th anniversary celebration, please contact us. We'll be right back.
There's a storm.
Join me, Priscilla Almquist-Olsen, to explore the town of Easton and its interesting, engaging, ordinary, and extraordinary people, and meet a smorgasbord of guests, including artists, authors, musicians, business owners, community organizations, clergy, local leaders, etc., etc., etc. Community Forum at 3 p.m. on Thursdays and 1:30 p.m. on Saturdays. See you then.
Hi there, I'm Gail Devins, and join me as we discover all the businesses that made Easton great. This is a wonderful, wonderful place. I cannot wait. I want to do it. I want to go there. I am definitely coming back, and I know you will too, because I'm telling you something. It is absolutely amazing in here. What a wonderful way to discover Easton. It's right here in Easton. Showing at noon on Mondays, 2 p.m. on Tuesdays, and 11 a.m. on Fridays, only on ECAT.
In 2023, Easton is a tight-knit community of 25,000 people. But with the hustle and bustle of modern life, it's easy to forget our past. A time when Easton's population was 6,000.
Everybody knew who everybody
everyone
was.
And there was respect.
There was respect for everyone.
When kids enjoyed great freedom and independence.
Everybody was poor at today's standards, but we all were in the same boat and we enjoyed life.
So join me, Priscilla Almquist-Olsen, as I explore what makes Easton so very special with some of its lifetime residents.
I think Easton has so much to offer, and if you're living in a community, you have to know it.
Watch Growing Up in Easton Tuesdays at 7 p.m. and Friday at 9 p.m. See you then.
Hello, welcome to Easton News. I'm Abby Kitchenham.
And I'm Jack Ryan, and together we bring you everything you need to know about Easton, including politics.
The annual town election is scheduled for Saturday, April 22nd, 2023.
Community events.
Be Inspired. Counseling presents a parent and child coping workshop centered around a new year and new beginnings.
And sports.
Pressure builds diamonds, so we live by that every day of practice, going into every game.
With APCSM guest segment Pet of the Week.
Hi, I'm Katie with the Animal Protection Center, and today we have a little Iris.
With help from special correspondent Wyatt Fain. Join us
for Easton News.
Playing 6 o'clock Friday, Saturday, and Sundays.
Welcome back to another segment of Easton 300. On this show, we like to talk about the good things that are happening here in the town of Easton. There's lots of terrific things happening as we plan and prepare for the 300th anniversary of the town of Easton. And I know that Brian, we have enjoyed just participating with the committee as we plan and prepare. And of course, the committee starts to expand. The events start to expand. And we're going to have a wild celebration, no doubt about it, when the year 2025 arrives.
Yep.
Can you imagine the town of Easton celebrating their 300th anniversary?
I think it's going to be a year-long party on a lot of different levels. I mean, yes, there's going to be signature events and celebrations all around the town using land and facilities that are in the town, but it's also going to be a celebration of who the community is and assets like the museum, the Children's Museum, the library, Oaks Ames Memorial Hall, the gardens. There's so many things around town. Borderland State Park,
Stonehill College.
Yep.
The list goes on and on.
Yeah, and so I think the fun part of this is having a chance to chat with professionals like these folks to find out a little bit more about the nitty-gritty, about what's going on at the library. Tell us more about Queeset. And I want to go back to Queeset House a little bit if we can, Dana. We were talking during the break about artist or author in residence programs, and I think they're ongoing, are they not?
They are ongoing.
Let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, a few times every year we have authors, artists come stay on the third floor of Queeset House, which has an apartment, bedroom, bathroom, living room, laundry space. It's a full little apartment up there, and we're so lucky that we have incredible people come and stay with us. And then they offer programs to children and adults. They're open to everyone. Kate Kleiss has been one of our perennial favorites. She has come back over and over. She writes amazing children's books. And she connected with some other people through Queesit House and through the library and ended up writing and narrating the Borderland documentary with filmmaker Kevin Friend.
Oh, really?
And so she's come back to take part in that as well. So one thing sort of rolled over into another.
Yeah, and Kevin's done some amazing things in and around the town and about the town too.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Yeah.
We mentioned that Queesit was the home of Winthrop Ames, and so we're working on a program right now that I think Winthrop would enjoy. We're going to be showing his silent film of Snow White next year, hopefully as something in parallel with the 300th programming. And it turns out that Winthrop created the first film. It was a silent film of Snow White. It had a piano accompaniment, and a young Walt Disney saw the film and ended up creating the animated full-length feature film for children that we know. The original film that Winthrop made was not necessarily for children. But a new score has been composed with a harp and viola player. They're sisters. They live out in Seattle. And so through the generous sponsorship of, I've actually got a flyer right here if I can show you. Ken Michael has agreed to sponsor it, and so hopefully we'll be able to work too with the Historical Society and offer a program where people could see how Winthrop's vision of Snow White became what we know.
For Walt Disney.
Yeah, the Walt Disney film.
That's fascinating.
And so not only does the timing align with the 300th anniversary for Easton, but Disney is releasing a live action film in 2025.
Well, a special thank you to Ken Michael. Ken is also president of the Historical Society. He's the business coordinator for the Tricentennial Committee and always takes an active part in the community. And we thank you very much, Ken Michael, if you're watching.
Yeah, so I hope people will come out and join us for that. That's going to be an exciting program.
That's great to learn about. We were talking again during the break a little bit about the renovation, the physical renovation of the library just before I think you came on board, Ian.
Yes.
And if I remember correctly, it extended some of the space for the children's section, but it also did some other things in terms of the resources and the internal facilities, you know, a bathroom that doesn't scare kids to death. You know, you want to talk about that a little bit?
Like I said, it was before my time there, but I've heard so many stories about people going down to the basement and being for the bathroom and just being scared out of their wits. It's always a good laugh, but it's no longer true, thankfully. So at the same time, when the library was trying to expand, which led to the creation of Queesit House, they still needed more room for books too. The library originally had a ground floor and a second level above it, which was the librarian's apartment. For actually most of the library's history, was what it was used for. It's now administrative offices, not as exciting. But after the vote for the addition went down, the library pulled some of those funds into a internal renovation of the building to try to maximize the usable space in there. So the basement, which was just a basement with the creepy hanging light bulbs leading to the bathroom, and the boiler and
a creaky old boiler. Let me tell you, that thing was loud.
So they took that space and opened it up. The creepy boiler, you know, behind a wall. It's no longer there to be seen. Put a beautiful circulation desk right at what is now the front door, which I don't think existed in the first place, earlier than that. And it allows people, and then it just has more room. We have, once you go through the circulation desk, you can now go into what we refer to as Easton's living room. I don't know if it's made it outside the library's walls, but we hope so. Which is it's where if you're browsing for DVDs, that's what they are. But there's a big table in the center there. It's used daily for tutors and just people having impromptu conversations. And then past that, which you're walking through concrete and brick, is our adult fiction collections. Then if you go down the hall, we have our non-creepy public bathrooms. And then it leads down to one of the newer renovations, which is our teen den. It's a little nook just for teens. It has books and graphic novels and manga and video games, beanbag chairs, I think just markers and things for them to be creative. But the idea is so they have a little space that is, a little their own that they can enjoy. And
it's not one of those spaces.
Yes, exactly.
It's closed off and they can be themselves.
So, yes, sometimes it still leads to that because we have half of that is the library's technical services. So we have people working. It's not on top of the teens, but it's still there. But it's there also right below the children's room, and sometimes the noise levels compete between the two of them. And we try not to shush, but sometimes it needs to be done for everybody else. Then the original main floor is the original ground floor is now just the main floor. It has our nonfiction books, the beautiful children's room, which was added in 1930s. It's one of like the first in the state to dedicated solely for children. Not the first, but early adapter. And the original front doors are behind the reference desk. So people who remember coming in as a child and being scared to go down to the basement are always like, this isn't how I entered before. And they look around for it, and we're like, it's here. It's not in use because it's granite stone steps leading up to them. So we had to think about accessibility. That's why the current entrance is there, because we can have ramps going into it and the old ones can't. But if you miss walking through those doors, just ask us. We can make it happen.
Yep. You can at least visit the doors. And talking about accessibility, now you have the beauty of an elevator that services all of the public access areas for the library. So individuals who have limitations in terms of using stairs, the full elevator or a lift elevator, I think, to take wheelchairs and stuff. So
how important that is.
Yeah, it really is. I wanted, for some of our viewers who are like me, slightly older, and were hanging around Easton back when the renovation was done, I want to bring you back to what to me was one of the most incredible community events that I have ever taken part in. On a certain weekend, there was a book brigade, which was identical to the old volunteer firemen's bucket brigade. And we had people from the front door of the library, the now closed front door of the library, down the walkway, all the way up Barrow Street, across Lincoln Street to Frothingham. And all of the books were taken out of the library and were repositioned up in Frothingham Hall, and that was the temporary lending library, if you wanted to call that.
Community spirit.
I'm telling you, there were bigwigs and little folks you never heard of, and everybody rubbing elbows and passing books from one to the other. I don't know how many volumes were moved then, but it was like an old-time barn raising, Dave. It was that kind of, here's the community coming together.
I love it.
Yep.
It was, I still, when I think about that, I think that was an amazing undertaking that could not have happened without people in the town feeling good about the library and what it meant to them, and also feeling good about progress, making things better. And I can't think of a better example of what 300 years has meant to this town. That was only one of those 300 years, but it says something about the character of the town, I think, and it says something about the character of the businesses who had their staffs out there passing books. The people who were in public service, in town government were out there. The DPW helped. Obviously the police were taking care of Lincoln Street so nobody got killed passing books across. But it was just an amazing, if you're watching and you remember that, drop us a line. Let us know that you were part of that, because you were part of history when that happened.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would like to take this opportunity, if I may, to thank the committee appointed by the Easton Select Board to plan and prepare for the 300th anniversary celebration. I know Brian and I, on behalf of the committee, are are doing this show to kind of promote the celebration. And we're honored to have our two guests with us today that are involved with the Ames Free Library and the Queeset House. But I'd like to thank certainly our treasurer, Jeanette Camara. She has a big responsibility. It takes lots of money to plan a year-round celebration, and she's the one that keeps track of it. Anyone that makes a donation, it should be made out to the town of Easton. We'd like to also thank Mark Lamb as Select Board Representative, Diane Lusardi, who is our secretary. She's also doing a 300th anniversary cookbook and is seeking all kinds of appetizers, meals. Maybe you have a special that you'd like to present. Diane Lasardi would be the contact person. The Assistant Secretary, Rosalind Miller. Mike Good handles the marketing and communications for the Celebration Committee. Hats off to Dale Carrister. Dale is our Vice Chair. He also handles community relations. Courtney Pupkin, we couldn't do it without her. She's a fundraiser and has done a terrific job of bringing funds in to help pay for the celebration. We'd also like to, and we thanked him earlier, Ken Michael, who handles the business part of it. Joan Lundgren, she is involved at Memorial Hall, but she's also going to be co-chairing the art festival. So there's lots of things happening. That's just the committee appointed by the Easton Select Board, but we're talking maybe hundreds and hundreds of volunteers. As I said to our viewing audience in the past, it's 35 people just to run a parade. Wow. And we have lots of events.
And we will have a parade.
Yes. And of course, the parade is scheduled on July 4th. During the holiday, there'll be an art and cultural festival. There'll be a block party. We thank all of our coordinators for stepping up to do that. We're looking forward to fireworks, a picnic at the Governor Ames Estate. There'll be concerts, there'll be a bonfire. There'll be a gala at Stonehill College. There'll be family fun days. And of course, the first event is scheduled for January 4th at Stonehill College. And folks, either volunteer, bring your family, enjoy all the activities. We're looking forward to seeing what might happen at the Queeset House as well as the Ames Free Library. And Brian, anything that I might have missed?
Well, the one thing that you missed, and you missed it intentionally, is that none of this would happen if Dave weren't chairing the 300th committee. So he's too humble to put himself in that list of folks that we thank. But I think without Dave, it's hard to imagine any of this having achieved the kind of formation it already has. And I think you said it before, Dave, it's not just the folks on the committee, but there are a number of what I call backbenchers, people who are behind them, helping out in a million different ways.
Coordinators of major events.
Oh my gosh, I think right away of Anne-Marie Taylor and Amanda Hurley and the work they're doing in getting ready for commemorative items that residents will be able to get.
Dan
There'll be
and Jamie
collection,
Anderson.
Yeah.
They're going to do a giant block party in the center of town.
Yeah.
That's scheduled on September 10th, if I can remember correctly the date with all the things that are going around my brain here.
Yeah, and folks, if you want to attend one of the committee meetings, they are open meetings. So keep an eye on the town crier, call the town offices to find out when and where the next meeting of the full committee would be. But the committee is incredibly open to ideas, suggestions, and contributions from people in the town. So it's your celebration, everyone's. So.
And Corey Ahonen, we appreciate what you've done in organizing many parades here in the town of Easton. We're hoping that this will be the largest parade that the town of Easton has ever had. So it takes lots of people, it takes funds
Mhm.
to make it happen. We thank our major donors. Some of them will be joining us. I shouldn't say some, well, hopefully all of them will
Yep.
join us
Yeah, as we
on
go
a
forward.
future
Yep.
cable cast
Yep.
as we thank them for their healthy donations to help make the celebration work.
And
So-
one way to thank, I think, to thank Ian and Dana and Jessica as well, who wasn't here today, is to invite you, if you think of things that the library or Queeset House can do to enrich, 365 days of celebrating 300 years. Don't be a stranger, just sit down and get a hold of Dave, get a hold of me, get a hold of Mark Lamb or anyone, and just say, hey, I have an idea. Because this is all about people having ideas.
Thank you.
That's the ideas come from the people. It doesn't just come from the committee members. We all know what we'd like to have, but the majority rules. We'd like to have something every day of the year, but that's kind of an impossibility.
Yeah.
It's something that the committee has worked hard at. They have been planning since late 2023, 24, and we'll still continue to plan. There's going to be an anniversary book. There's going to be a 300th anniversary cookbook, and there's going to be a gift that the committee at the end is going to give to the town so that people can remember this gigantic celebration. This cable cast has been a production of ECAT, Easton Community Access Television. And Brian, we thank them so much for covering the events and helping us get the word out to the folks. We enjoy doing the show. Brian has some experience with WBZ.
Yeah, and a bunch of other stuff.
And I have my experience on radio with WPRO out of Providence. We feel comfortable looking on the camera and thanking people for what they do. And again, there's still time to make a contribution. There is still time for volunteers to come forward. We meet on the fourth Tuesday of the month. That's our official meeting. And we do our TV cable cast on the first Tuesday of the month. And then we have subcommittee meetings on the second Tuesday of the month. So we keep ourselves pretty busy. What have you heard, Dana, about the celebration? I know outside of me chatting with you, you've been working for 9 years and 3 days for the Queeset House. What have you heard about the celebration?
It's been exciting to see your program evolve. The design, the publicity, I've seen the creation of this and the contest that went into creating that poster, all of the brainstorming and things that have been going on. I think it's exciting. I love it. I heard there was history behind the clock that has a 4 instead of the IV in Roman numerals.
That's right.
What is the story?
Well, I had to research it because I had somebody point out to me that, gee, that's not the way the numeral 4 should be in Roman numerals. And researching it goes back into the, I believe, the 13 or 1400s in Europe. A king commissioned a clock, and he was whatever he was, the 7th. That was his title. And when it came out that it was the IV where the 4 was, he didn't like that because he thought it drew away from the 7, which is the VI. So it almost, he said that's too much like, it created dissonance in his head, I guess. So he agreed that the public clock would have 4, ones so that it'd be in balance. And since then, public Roman numeral clocks almost invariably have 4 ones instead of the IV, 4 I's, you would say, instead of the IV. And it seems that that's kind of the protocol around the world now when you do Roman numeral clocks. Even wristwatches that have Roman numerals on them will usually have the 4 ones instead of, the actual Roman numeral.
And as we speak about the clock, certainly we'd like to thank Lee Williams, the late Lee Williams. He made certainly a healthy donation. He, and as well as the Historical Society, helped make that clock available. Would also like to thank Piper Janalis for designing and winning the contest to design the clock as our logo for the 300th anniversary celebration. She also did more than just the logo.
She did.
We're going to eventually have 90 pole banners scattered along Center Street, the parade route. They're going to be on every other pole. They're going to be on every other pole on the main street. They're going to surround Memorial Hall in that area. They're going to be at the 5 corners. And she's a very talented person that was able to do what was necessary as we promote a year-round celebration for the town of Easton.
And in a very short time, I think that logo has become iconic. You know, so many people around town mention the clock and the logo, the clock. So it's synonymous with the town.
And since that clock came about, I've been on time for all my meetings because I'm looking at a clock at all times. Ian, what have you got to say about the celebration? I know you've been here in the town of Easton for a while.
Yep.
And it's a 300th anniversary. And everybody, regardless of who they are or where they live or what building they're responsible for, we're all part of the 300th anniversary. What have you got to say about it?
I want to make a pitch for the library itself, actually. A couple years ago, the head of adult services got us a grant through the state, thinking ahead for the 300 years, and it's 300 years, 300 stories. So her goal is to collect the history of Easton through personal stories that people submit either in writing or an audio recording or wherever they want. And so it's an amazing project. She has a database set up so people can access these things. She has kits set up so you can get the equipment you need to, bring to your great uncle's house so you can record his stories from he was a kid living in the town.
That's good stuff to know.
Yeah, and we're not looking, we don't want just, the big history of the town. We're looking for, your stories of the schools or just the soda shops, walking around, what you remember from your childhood or the stories you were told, just so we can capture those and preserve them for the next 300 years, so people can have these, remember that. So if you have a story that you think wants to be, you want to share, you think will be appreciated by everyone else, even if you just think it's worthwhile, please come down to the library. Like I said, it can be written, typed, spoken into, filmed, however you want to do it, we will archive it for you and preserve it for the future. And that's one of the ways we're hoping to contribute to your cause.
That's interesting. I asked someone from out of town, what do you think about Easton? What do you know about Easton? And he told me about the Olympic championship that the USA won. And the goalie was from the town of Easton.
Sure.
Jimmy Craig. That's what he remembers. And that's all part of the history here in the town of Easton. That's just one thing. And I know, Brian, you have about 100 suggestions you could make on the history of this town.
I said in an earlier telecast that it's nice to be talking about something that's 300 years old because my kids are glad to know that there's something older than me. So it's funny, people do come up to you and suggest things. One of the things that I heard just late last week was the idea about whether or not there'll be a time capsule. And I said, I honestly don't know, but I'll ask about that. And that's something that traditionally libraries, archivists, colleges all get, take part in that. What
there
do we
will
want to
be
preserve?
a capsule, and we also are going to be opening one up from the 250th.
Oh, good. Great.
So that's going to take place during the month of January 2025.
Yeah. We'll have our own, Punxsutawney Phil moment without having to worry about rodents.
And of course, the previous history books have had photographs of the library, and of course the Queeset House, which comes under the library. Any final comments that you'd like to make, Dana?
No, thank you.
Yeah.
This is
We
wonderful.
appreciate you
exciting.
being here.
Yeah.
And how about you, Ian, on behalf of the library?
Thank you for everything your committee is doing. We're all excited for next year, everything going on. We're happy for whatever little part we can play. And yeah, just come into the library, enjoy yourselves.
Good.
But
Well, I want to thank you both for being here. I know when I first talked to you about it, I was like, ooh, I'm not sure I want to be. And I think that hopefully you've learned today that it's pretty easy. We're just going to sit around and chat, and there happens to be a television camera there. But just being yourselves, that's what our viewers are looking for.
They were terrific.
Yeah, they were terrific. So
I
thank
did
you for
want
joining
to
us.
give a shout out and thank you to both Karen and Tom Hetzel. They have been working closely with Langwater. They're going to have a family fun day. I'd like to thank Dale Thistle, who's over at Borderland State Park. The Friends of Borderland are going to be hosting an antique auto show, and that's going to be in October of 2025. So there's lots of things happening. My apologies if I missed anyone. I certainly, sometimes when you speak from the cuff and you don't have the names in front of you, you can miss someone. My apologies if that happened. So, Brian, any final comment? We're looking forward to doing this show once a month.
Yeah. It's, as always, a real joy to be with people who I know are such a key part of what the community is, what the town is. The town's more than the tax rolls and the voter rolls. The town is the people and the things that they bring to the experience of living here. So having Ian and Dana here, again, it's great to be able to share that with our viewers, and I look forward to continuing to do it. And again, if you have ideas on how we can do a better job of getting this out to the folks, please let us know.
And a big thank you to all the volunteers and the people who work at the Ames Free Library, or the volunteers that give their time at the Queeset House. They too are looking for volunteers. If you want to share your time and your talent, that's a great place to do it. And of course, once you sign up there, we're going to get that list and get you on our volunteer list as well, because this is a community event.
Yeah.
It's going to take place in 2025. It's a chance, because the world's gotten a little crazy. It's a chance for us all to celebrate and to make everybody understand how lucky we are to have what we have, to live in a country like the good old USA, the land of the free, and to live in a community like Easton, Massachusetts, a great place to bring up a family.
Well said.
We look forward to the celebration. Please join us again next month on the first Tuesday of the month here on ECAT. Easton Community Access Television. Go forth and give your time where it's needed. Thank you.